All right, go ahead and roll for perception.
I got a 13.
Hey, that's pretty good. With that, you can tell there's some fantasy situations going on. You hear some adult language, and with that, you can tell this podcast probably isn't for kids.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Will.
And I'm Brian.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons and Dragons, from helpful hermits to hardy hags. And today, we're talking about Hobgoblins. The Dungeoncast. All right, Brian.
What are we doing today?
We're doing Hobgoblins today.
Hell yeah. Oh, you said that.
Yeah, I did. I'm also really excited because these guys are super interesting and really, really cool. And I just really like them. They're one of my favorite mobs.
I always picture them in like big, like the kind of red that Iron Man has on his armor.
Mm-hmm.
Like just big red pieces of armor with like a... I think they do that in the monster manual, right?
Yeah, they tend to have reddish, or not that they tend to do, but I've seen that depicted where they have like a reddish armor. Not quite the Iron Man red, but
yeah, I picture
reddish.
the Iron Man red.
That's pretty cool. I like that. That's, you know, they are reddish,
with like
red
the trim
red.
on the plating and stuff.
That's pretty cool. I like that. So Hobgoblins. They're one of the three major goblinoids in D&D. The three are goblins, hobgoblins, and bugbears. In folklore, hobgoblins are very, very different than D&D lore.
And in Spider-Man, it's very, very different as well.
Yeah, that's true. And I think we've come to see that this is the case most of the time.
Yeah, this is also not Spider-Man.
This is also not Spider-Man. In folklore, hobgoblins are small, hairy men that like live in the house, and they do helpful things when the humans are sleeping.
Is it fucking house elf from Harry Potter?
Yeah, basically.
It's fucking Dobby.
This couldn't be more different from what hobgoblins are in D&D.
Yeah, these giant murder machines.
Yeah, well, yeah.
A giant? Are they giant? They're medium.
No, they're human sized. So, okay, hobgoblins are not very much like their smaller cousins, the goblins. They're bigger, stronger, smarter, and generally more menacing.
Probably faster.
Yeah,
probably better at magic. If they do
better at magic.
at all.
They're kind of better at everything.
Yeah.
They are shrewdly
super
intelligent.
Goblin.
They are super goblins. Yes, they're extremely well. Okay, let's back it up. They're roughly human size. Rather than being greenish, they're usually reddish or brownish of skin.
Okay,
but with all the goblin features, like the goblin face, teeth, claws, ears. They got like the long pointy ears.
Yeah,
a little hairy.
And they're all coming out of the helm. They don't quite fit right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unlike goblins, they are extremely well organized and disciplined. They're a very militaristic society. They're extremely well trained in the art of war. War is their life's blood, and the military lifestyle dominates their entire culture.
Now, the goblin is the one with the jester, right?
The Nilbog.
The Nilbog, where they got to shit on somebody real hard.
Yeah. Although they'll have a jester so that a Nilbog doesn't show up.
Right.
That's it. Yeah, you're right. Yes.
Either way, somebody's getting shit on.
Yes.
Okay,
very much so.
Hobgoblins are not getting shit on. They are shitting on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say so. Hobgoblins have a kind of a society where everyone has a rank, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
Is this like they live separately from regular goblins?
Yes, for the most part. But
I thought they were all kind of mixed in.
They do mix together, and we'll get into that. But first, we're going to talk about hobgoblins in Hobgoblin society specifically. Hobgoblins are the most likely of all like the mobs we talked about to actually have a city or even an entire nation of hobgoblins.
Okay, cool.
They're not very much like orcs that are kind of more nomadic, or like orcs tend to like raid, take, and then go back,
go camp.
Well, gnolls are always on the warpath, on the move, and they're nomadic.
They're like caravanning, basically.
Right, and then goblins are like holed up in their caves, and lizard folk and bullywugs are in their swamp. Yeah, and like kobolds are also in their caves.
So they're just finding a place that this got nice walls. Let's hang some torches and hang out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Also, hobgoblins will straight build their fucking places.
Yeah, that's the difference, right?
Hobgoblins are fucking people, man. Like they're monstrous in a lot of ways, and they're definitely a force to be reckoned with when it comes to like if you're a humanoid. They're not something you want to see, according to the classic lore. But like these guys, they're disciplined. They're notably proficient at weapon crafting, at engineering, and at using magic for war. Specifically, their engineering. They're really good at engineering like fortifications and siege machines.
Okay.
Like, yeah, these are like the war race. And their martial ability, although physically it is very impressive, their martial ability really highlights tactics and strategy. These dudes get a +2 to intelligence when you make this them as a playable character, which you can do.
So these are the guys that are like wheeling out like mortar catapults and stuff
Exactly.
for battle.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. No, hobgoblins are legit scary and they're really cool. I think they're awesome. But let's get into it. So they have a high standard of military honor that tends to make them lawful evil. And the reason for all these things that we're talking about is because of the relationship they have with their gods. So let's
There's
talk
a lot
about
of that with these monster factions.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So in the Goblins episode, we talked about Maglubiet.
Right. Okay.
Just straight up annihilates the entire Goblin pantheon and takes over.
Right. And they're responsible for the Nilbog. Is that correct?
The Nilbog is like the shattered remnant of a unnamed deity that still tries to exert its
It's like
will
reincarnating
on the
itself to do what it needs to do.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay. So it's separate from this god.
It is separate.
Okay.
And so Maglubiet completely annihilated the Goblin pantheon. He also attacked the Hobgoblin pantheon, but he didn't completely annihilate it. He left 2 left alive. And these 2 are very important because they play a major part in Hobgoblin society. So the 2 deities that were left after Maglubiet's conquest of the entire goblinoid people are named, their chief deity that was left, his name is Nomog Gaia, and his right-hand man is individual named Bargriviek.
Nice.
Yes. So
D&D.
Yeah, I know. So Nomog is the god of like tyranny, also stoicism. He's very serious and unemotional. Bargriviek, the cooler of the 2, he's about unity, discipline, and duty. And
God, I see the need for like to come up with a unique name,
but maybe
these
make it
things.
pronounceable.
Yeah, like can you? This is off-putting to new players. I think.
I think it's off-putting to everyone.
Yeah, I'm like, if you're trying to tell, so if you're gonna DM this and monologue a little bit, and then Nagluviek from the Hobgoblin Society of Ickenbar, blah blah blah, and you're saying all these crazy ass names, I can't follow you,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Like, that's my only gripe with friends at the table. Is sometimes they're hitting me with these monologues, and they hit me with like a bunch of vocabulary that's
Let's shit on friends at the table.
secular within the game, and I'm just like,
No, I feel
holy
you.
crap.
I agree that
What the fuck did this guy just say?
overflowery names are sometimes detrimental to
Like,
what you're trying to do.
if you're in it and if you're in the shit and you understand it, like if you're the DM, you probably think it's fucking dope because you know what all these things are, and if you can relate the vocabulary and like tie it all together, it's cool. But damn, it's hard to get into that.
What I would do in this situation, because I don't really deal with Hobgoblin deities all that much, but if I were to, I would just shorten these names. So rather than Nomog Gaia, Nomog, the god of the Hobgoblins.
That's good.
And instead of Bargriviek, it would have been Barg.
Yeah,
Nomog and Barg. Or Griviek,
yeah, any of it is
a
good.
little more pronounceable. I agree, 100%. But this is the classic lore, so this is what we're talking about.
Well, what I'm saying is like just to clarify is like if you're into this and you can get your mind around it, I'm sure there's plenty of people that can. It's dope. It's really cool.
But it can be off-putting.
Yeah, but I can't get past that unless if I played a bunch of sessions and like I kept getting hit with it, it eventually cognitively like seep in. But
Right.
yeah, at face value, not for me.
Totally get you.
Yeah, I like what you're doing. Shorten it up.
Yeah. Well, I
anyway, let's
appreciate
move
it.
on.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right. So the Hobgoblins hold these 2 deities very close to their hearts as their heritage. It's because they're the only 2 left. They're like, dear God, like we need to hold these 2 close because who knows what could happen to them. But they're still very careful to never hold either Nomog or Barg above Maglubiet. He's chief, he's king.
Okay.
He's the warlord, and these 2 are his generals.
Okay.
And these deities now use their teachings and their domains to serve Maglubiet in his eternal conquest, which is what he's all about. This combination of Maglubiet's like conquest and tyranny, with their like law, unity, and discipline, is the foundation of
It's like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, it's the foundation of Hobgoblin belief, and it's this strange balance between civility and brutality.
Right. Okay.
Which makes them so goddamn interesting to me.
Yeah, that's a powerful combination.
The more I was reading about Hobgoblins, the more I was being reminded of my character in your game that I played, D'Artagnan Bloodthane,
Right.
where he's very much like these people.
Yes.
Very lawful evil and very like militaristic, and this strange balance between being very, very civil, but also extremely brutal.
Right. Like basically if you're in line, it's all good for you, but if you're out of line or like if you disrupt the system, you're going to be punished and heavily.
Harshly, yes.
Yeah.
And that's very Hobgoblinish. So, okay, a society of Hobgoblins is called a legion. and is led by a single warlord. The Legion is divided up into smaller units called banners. Banners are usually made up of like interrelated families that have history together. You just kind of siphon them off together. Each banner has its own separate status within the Legion. So there'll be like a top banner that's like the elites, and then it'll be all the way down to the bottom foot soldier banner.
That reminds me of like knighthood, right? Like like strings of like noble family and stuff. It's like I have to come with this like proof that I'm from this family or whatever.
Yeah, I would say that is similar. One thing that's notable about Hobgoblin society is like who your father is. All that politics, they don't really matter because what really matters in Hobgoblin society is glory and prowess.
Okay,
and,
cool.
We're gonna get that's a big part of them, and we'll get to that. But let me go through my notes in the way I wrote them. The leaders of the highest esteemed banners, they tend to be generals.
Okay.
That kind of work with the warlord and kind of serve directly with him. The leaders of the smaller banners, they'll be general captains, and then each banner will have there's a whole list of ranks, and ranks are important because from the moment a hobgoblin can walk, they start being trained in the arts of war, and they make first rank, which is soldier. So the moment you can walk, you're a soldier now. We're gonna start training you. So the ranks are as follows. So warlord at the top, then general, then captain, followed by fatal axe, spear, fist, and then at the bottom, soldier.
Here's your welcome to age 3, child. Walking is good. Here's your first metal sword.
Indeed.
Damn.
So hobgoblins measure virtue by physical strength, martial prowess, and glory on the battlefield, as I said before. Advancement in rank is done primarily via these things. If you prove yourself, you're probably going to get promoted.
Okay.
They like promotion. They like to see you do
Promoting from within.
Promoting from within.
Nice.
Though politics do play a part in hobgoblin culture, regardless of whatever the politics are, advancement in rank can never be denied to someone who proves himself. This is the linchpin of their society. So
even if you don't like Hobgoblin Dan like at all, if he fucked it up in battle, you gotta let him in.
Indeed.
Okay.
Basically. And the theory here is that the fortunes of war can elevate anybody from the lowly soldier all the way up to general or even warlord, depending on how things go.
Okay.
We're going to talk more about glory and all this insanity that the hobgoblins are into. But before we do that, let's take a short rest.
Can't wait to talk about glory. Hey everybody, welcome to the part of the show where we're not talking about glory necessarily, unless it's the glory of you, the listener, who's listening to the show that we appreciate very much. You are very glorious, and thank you. Thank you. Thanks to anybody who rolled in on Patreon. Your shout out, you'll be getting a message from me soon if you did come in, and we will be shouting you out on the next episode. Thank you to all the Patreon people that came in that we mentioned last week again. I really appreciate you. Yeah, do we want to talk about the contest again?
We do.
We're running another contest, everybody.
2 contests, in fact, although they are for the same prize.
Well, a duplicate. It's 2 prizes, but they're duplicate prizes.
Indeed they are. So one contest we're running on Twitter. It's kind of similar to our previous contest. All you got to do is share a link to the show with the hashtag Dungeoncast. We will go ahead and catch that, add you to the list, and you will be entered into the Twitter section of our contest, giving away Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, the newest book coming out on May 29th, which is also the day we are announcing the winner.
Right, and you can find our Twitter at the Dungeoncast. So go there, give us a follow would be nice, or you know, then you can check out all our stuff. There'll be the details for the contest will most likely be there. You can get update D&D like general news updates, some hot memes,
you'll get those
polls for what episode you want to see next.
If you want a poll in a while.
Yeah, if you want to weigh in on like what we should do, Twitter's a great place to reach us.
I would say so. Yeah, definitely.
Just hashtag Dungeoncast. We really appreciate it when you guys do that. We also, is there anything else?
Yeah, the second contest we're running on YouTube. Right. By the time this episode airs, there should have been a video released on our channel. Probably titled something along the lines of our Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes giveaway or something like that. Yeah. Go ahead and check out that video and like, subscribe, and leave a comment in that video telling us what you're most excited to see in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, and you'll be entered into the YouTube section of our giveaway.
So you have to make sure that you do all 3 things. You have to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment below with what you're excited about in the book. So that one's a little more complicated than the Twitter one, but...
And if you do both, you'll be entered twice.
That's right. You can totally do that. You have 2 chances to win. You could win them both, but probably not. You probably won't. The odds are going to be very...
Odds are astronomical.
Yeah. So with that, If you need to know where to find our YouTube channel, just go to YouTube and type in the Dungeoncast. That's the and then one word Dungeoncast.
Right.
You can find us on SoundCloud.com/the Dungeoncast. As I mentioned before, it's at the Dungeoncast on Twitter. If you want to leave us some critique, positive feedback, have any questions, you can email us at thedungeoncast@gmail.com. Find us anywhere podcasts are found. Leave us an iTunes review if you're feeling like you're in the mood, baby. Come on, give us some love. That's about it.
Yeah, I think we're ready to go back to the show.
Let's go back
To the show.
to the glory.
To the glory. Right. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about glory.
That's please.
So as I said before, the obvious like physical strength, martial prowess, glory on the battlefield. Those will all lend to a hobgoblin's glory.
Yeah, like a vast amount of killing. That's always
Vast
good.
amount of killing, indeed. But there are other things that can also give a hobgoblin glory, to a lesser extent, but still glory.
Yelling when you like lift the barbell and drop it. Make sure it's really loud.
Discovering valuable resources.
Okay.
Designing a really, really dope defense. Like designing an awesome siege equipment that might bring you glory.
Really cool.
Even writing a really good song about a dope conquest in the past will bring you some glory.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
these hobgoblins, they just fucking love glory.
I fucking love it so much.
So each legion of hobgoblins will have their own rules and code of conduct and all that jazz. But there are some general rules that all hobgoblins across all legions tend to follow. We're going to list them here. So their number one rule is follow orders without question.
Cool.
Like just obey the hierarchy.
Right.
Follow the rules, all will go well. Number 2, honor the gods. Remember I told you they keep their 2 gods and Maglubiet very close.
Right.
Like these are the most pious of all 3 goblinoids.
Yeah, they need to be that. All that needs to be in line for glory to ensue.
It's said that Maglubiet left these 2 deities alive because when he saw the hobgoblins and the way they were, like he really wanted to keep them tight in hand and keep them disciplined. So he left some of their deities alive to work with and keep them pious and keep them on this kind of warpath.
I like that.
Number 3 is probably the most interesting of these rules. It's called suffer nor give insult. Now this is interesting because this also shapes hobgoblin society. So hobgoblins
Talk shit, get hit.
Yeah, talk shit, get hit. Hobgoblins kind of live by that. Like if there is insult given, like there will be retribution for that. So as a general rule, there is this outward over politeness between all hobgoblins. Generally speaking, they're very civil with each other.
Okay, I can see that getting kind of like hairy, where you're like, yeah, and thank you so much for all that cool stuff you did on the battlefield. Most glorious, my friend.
Right.
Really good.
I'm sure there's a lot of passive aggressive. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Now, this suffer nor give insult thing extends beyond just hobgoblin relations. They will be like this with like humans, for example.
Okay.
Which will actually throw humans for a loop a lot of time because they don't expect like this red monster to be incredibly polite. But the thing is, most of the time, elves or dwarves or humans are not polite back. Because they don't, number 1, humans don't follow this code. Number 2, they're usually hostile to the hobgoblins anyway, so they're openly insulting.
Yeah,
which
they call them big dirty goblins to their faces.
Indeed, which leads to massive retribution.
Hell yeah, absolutely. Because they're talking shit, so they're about to get hit.
Exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, suffer nor give insult. That's number 3. Number 4, reward glorious action. This is that rule I was telling you about, where if someone does something glorious, they get advancement in rank regardless of politics. Like nothing beats that.
Yeah, I really liked when you rolled that giant boulder down the mountain and killed like 30 guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And then last but not least, uphold the legion. Now, this rule is about the fact that each hobgoblin holds their legion above any other legion.
So that could be subbed out for like tribe.
Yeah, it could be subbed out for tribe, sure. But the point is, like, sometimes legions will come together, and we're going to get into that. But most of the time they don't. But when they do, it's our legion first kind of deal.
Yeah. Okay.
Which
I thought you were going to say when they do, it's most glorious.
It is most glorious as well. But yeah.
Cool.
So let's talk a little bit about where they live. When hobgoblins are not on the warpath, which surprisingly enough, they're not always on the warpath. It's not like gnolls where it's just this constant thing.
Yeah, it's like, oh, those dirty elves are talking shit about us being big dirty goblins again.
Right.
Now it's warpath time.
Right. Well, no. Well, we'll get into it. Well, when not on the warpath, hobgoblins tend to build or commandeer sometimes settlements to farm, gather resources, raise children, simply live their lives. Now, they keep the military like lifestyle. It's almost like a military base.
They've got some like training and shit going on nonstop. They're running like scouting missions and stuff.
Right. But generally, it's a time of non-war at this point. They prefer out-of-the-way areas with adequate access to resources. Lumber, ore, and stone, very important. Farmable land, obviously, they got to heat. Here, they will set their roots until Maglubiet calls for war. They'll even, to some extent, establish like trade posts. So, like, let's say they're in a forest pretty far removed from society. Well, they might send a...
They make a lemonade stand on like the main pathway through the woods.
I'm picturing something like that kind of. They'll send a couple hobgoblins out
from deep within.
They'll establish like a stand or like probably a little fortification on the road.
That'll be 1 gold. It's 1 apple. Yeah, it's from way in there.
Yeah,
you want it or not?
Yeah.
Where's the last shop you saw?
That's valid. I like that. No, I want a hobgoblin that's running like some sort of scam lemonade shop.
It's like prices, like theme park prices.
Yeah, pretty much, because you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Lemonade.
So, but yeah, that's the thing. They'll even trade with nearby communities. Sometimes, not all the time.
Okay,
depends. Like I said, the settlement itself will be very military, so it'll be like a military camp. It'll have like a command center and sentries and a training ground and all that stuff. Barracks, yeah, exactly. Like generally speaking, a hobgoblin's quarters are austere but usable. Like but like they'll fulfill your need, but they're very simple.
They're minimalist.
Yeah, minimal. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Okay. So let's talk about we're going to talk about 2 things. We're going to talk about Maglubiet's call to war, and we're going to talk about like the forming of a host.
Okay.
So all 3 goblinoids, bugbear, goblin, and hobgoblin, are bound together via Maglubiet's will. And when all 3 come together, whether it's by chance and circumstance or whether by design, like maybe Maglubiet actually does something to make it happen, or maybe the hobgoblins are, you know what, like it's been peaceful too long, let's find our cousins and we're going to form a host. Either way, it doesn't matter how it happens, it's considered to be a sign, and it's Maglubiet's called the war.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so when that happens, a host will form and the individual goblin behaviors will change. The society will change because they're going to come together in this weird kind of way. Okay. So hobgoblins take charge. They're going to form the backbone of society. They're going to be the main force.
Like we're calling the shots.
They're calling the shots. They're in all the officer positions. Well, some bugbears might get that.
Okay, but they're taking care of everybody also.
Yeah, they're doing the logistics. They're doing all that stuff, and everyone else is kind of serving them. The bugbears will begrudgingly become like heavy labor. They're also going to become the shock troops because they're fucking scary.
Yeah.
And general assistance to the hobgoblins. Now, this is in 2 ways. Number 1, they're usually being bribed to do so because they're big lazy dudes and they don't really want to do any of this or be told what to do.
Okay.
So they kind of have to be bribed, but a big part of it too is the fear of Maglubiet. Like, if this is happening, it's Maglubiet's will. If it's Maglubiet's will,
we better
he's
listen.
watching.
Right.
And if he's watching, we're doing
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, there that is. And also the goblins will begin to become rounded up and kind of conscripted into being the cannon fodder units and the slaves and all that.
They're out of big rocks. Time to load up the mortar cannon with goblins.
Right. That's you can do that. The former goblin chiefs will still be in charge of their like units, but generally speaking, they're not seen as pretty much any higher than the regular goblins.
Damn, can you imagine? Remember that spiked armor from that barbarian?
Yeah.
Can you imagine just loading up a mortar cannon with goblins wearing spiked armor and just like launching them out?
Oh man,
like a troop.
That's a horror show. So hobgoblins, much like their smaller cousins, are notable animal tamers. While remember, I think we talked about goblins are like notable wolf trainers and rat trainers. Mm-hmm. Hobgoblins are known for taming wargs. Which I don't know if you know what a warg is. They're
I don't.
They're like big, burly. They're like the size of dire wolves, and they're wolf-like, but they're more burly and bearish looking, and they got like this real gargoyle-ish looking face.
So like a big pig?
No, they're not pig-like. Like a gargoyle looking, or like a demon face.
Okay,
almost, like on a burly wolf body is the best way I would say.
But not a wolf.
Not a wolf, though.
So okay.
We'll have to open the monster manual. They're fucking scary.
Yeah,
and they're inherently evil.
Oh shit! Okay.
But hobgoblins ride wargs. They don't ride horses. Well, they do ride horses, but rather instead of riding horses like humans, they tend to ride wargs.
I'd rather ride something evil,
right?
For glory.
They also are notable trainers of ravens for long distance communication.
That's dope.
Yeah, it's really fucking cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that was just a fun fact. So once a host is formed, and all the logistics are figured out and they know where they're going to go conquest and all that stuff, it goes on the warpath. And its warpath is a little bit different from like orcs or gnolls. They are about conquering and holding territory. It is not about wanton slaughter. It's a practice claiming of territory and subjugating the people.
Then.
Yeah. Hobgoblins seek to leave enough of the population intact to keep the community functioning with them in charge now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Warlike.
They will even, to the point, they'll even recruit humanoids willing to join them if they prove themselves. And they'll have whole human like contingent units.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and when this happens, when a host gets on the move and they start gaining traction, this is how entire empires are born.
Oh,
Hobgoblin
shit, yeah.
empires that will last whole generations.
They just have like a little like a segregated encampment of like human mercs they ran across that were like, you guys seem cool, want to join our gang?
Basically, they'll work together. Again, these are highly intelligent creatures that can speak common. They're not like dumb monsters.
Right, they're people.
Indeed.
They're super goblins.
And yeah, Hobgoblin empires happen. Now, they tend not to last longer than like 40 or 50 years. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll get a century out of it. And it's because the bond of allegiance is dependent on the continued conquest.
Okay.
So if victories falter, there will be dissatisfaction. And if there's dissatisfaction, it'll lead to the bugbears will start kind of acting
change it
up.
They'll defact.
Yeah, well, what will happen is the bugbears will start kind of getting rowdy. If that happens and there's no getting, if they can't get the bugbears to behave, the bugbears will be like, hey, McGlubia's not watching. Obviously, his will's falling apart. They'll straight rebel.
Right.
Because they don't want to be here anyways. They don't give a fuck about the empire.
Yeah, it's just all about McGlubia.
Yeah, and then the bugbears are numerous enough and powerful enough that if you can't keep them in check, it's mayhem, and then the whole empire will slowly fall apart. So,
damn.
That's kind of how that goes.
Okay.
So, we're going to get into a couple like major fun facts, but before we move on to those, do you have any other questions about general Hobgoblin society? Because we've covered the basics.
So they're picking like secluded areas, like so it could still be like the mountains, it could be deep in the forest, or
much like humans, they could kind of choose anywhere.
An off the beaten like.
The reason that they probably choose out of the way areas is because if they don't, they'll get harassed, and they're not afraid of a fight. But like if it's not a wartime, they are trying to build themselves up, and they don't need to be harassed.
Wartime.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Cool.
So
I just wanted to specify.
Okay, so here are some interesting things about Hobgoblin society. They have this secret society of monks called the Iron Shadows.
Whoa, that's cool.
It's a shadow monk society that directly serves the priesthood of Maglubiet, and basically they kind of work as a secret police. They have the ability to use shadow magic, and they're held in really high esteem because even they don't even answer to the warlord. They're kind of like this independent entity that only answers to the priesthood, and so. They also have secret identities so that when they roll around the society in the open, they're usually wearing like these fiendish looking masks to hide their identity.
Like the fucking 300 is coming up a lot in our show.
Is it?
But
there's
those guys that are for Xerxes that wear they're like the unkillable soldiers or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're wearing those masks. And they're like freaks underneath or whatever.
Right.
That's cool. Or this reminds me of the Yiga clan in Breath of the Wild. There's like a clan of Sheikah soldiers that defacted and serve Ganondorf or Ganon in this game, and they wear these like masks of inverted truth. It looks like a mask of truth. But
that's really cool.
Yeah, and they have a bow. They appear before you and like try to assassinate you.
Oh,
and shit.
Whoa, that's really dope.
Yeah, this sounds like that a little bit. This is cool.
These guys they can teleport in shadows. They can do all kinds of shadow magic. It's pretty cool.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So that's an interesting tidbit about.
They're hitting
Hobgoblins.
you with like the palm of their hand and shit. Like,
yeah. So these Hobgoblin shadow monks that just kind of run amok.
They're trying to break your nose with that move.
Sure. Yeah.
Jam it into
Why
your brain.
wouldn't they?
Hell yeah, absolutely. That's some shadow magic.
So another fun fact, we talked a little bit about Hobgoblins are pretty good at magic. As a matter of fact, they love magic to a certain extent. They see it as a great tool for war. So there is an institution called the Academy of Devastation. It is a secret location somewhere abroad that all legions will send their potential magic users to.
Okay.
So it's like this neutral ground.
Cool.
Here, these potential magic users are kind of forged into magical artillery weapons specializing in evocation magic. So like they don't teach you sleep. they teach you fireball and call lightning, and basically they want to let you loose on the battlefield, and you're just gonna wreak havoc.
Right.
Yeah, and that's just Academy of Devastation.
Cool. Like we're training tanks here.
Indeed, and yeah, so they take that shit serious.
We're out of giant rocks for our mortar cannon. Time to fire the spellcasters.
Indeed.
While you're in the air, make sure you do all your dopest stuff before you hit the ground.
Unleash all your slots.
You've got 18 seconds in midair. That's 3 turns.
Better do it right. That is 3 turns. That is quite valid.
Okay.
And that +2 to intelligence makes hobgoblins pretty good wizards. So,
right on.
Yeah. That's all I got on hobgoblins today, man. You got any questions?
These are cool.
I told you they're really cool. I told you they're probably one of my favorite mobs.
I didn't know about the secret monk police.
Yeah,
at all. I had no idea about that.
I know you didn't. Yeah.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah, and the Academy of Devastation is pretty cool too.
So, what are their like weapons of choice? Are they like up in your face combat? Are they just sword and shielding it, or are they like broadswording it? Or?
So I number one. Hobgoblins are usually very proficient in all weapons.
Right.
So like your general hobgoblin can use a spear, an axe, a sword, shield. Like they can fight with whatever they got.
They might have like multiple weapons on them like that.
Yes, exactly right. They'll be armed to the teeth. They tend to operate in like tight units. They remind me of like Roman soldiers or like 300. You know how like
they put up the shields. Exactly. There's only like so many of them.
Yeah, there'll be a phalanx of hobgoblins, and they're scary, dude. Like they're not like orcs. They're not like gnolls.
Yeah,
like, these dudes will fucking take over your nation.
These guys have like a big map, and they're like moving pieces on it and stuff with those like pool sticks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In my homebrew D&D campaign setting, they have a capital city called Bloodhelm, and they have a whole cutout of territory. And they in my world, the hobgoblins run the city and the army, but they're made up of they've managed to conquer orc tribes and bring them into the city, and minotaur tribes and bring them into the city. So it's this weird conglomerate of what some people would consider monstrous races that are still intelligent.
Yeah.
And the order is kept by the hobgoblins. And it's like,
so there can't be too many like smaller factions within this encampment. Or else they'll get they might get overrun, outnumbered.
True, but the most populous population in the city is by far goblins. Goblins probably make about 50% of the entire population.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Hobgoblins probably about 20.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, and you've got like secret police spies and stuff keeping their eye on stuff. Yeah, so they're answering straight to, if they're answering to the priesthood, that means that's the mouth of their god. What was it?
Maglubiet. But the Maglubiet priests are not in charge of the legions or the host.
Who's in charge of that?
The warlord is in charge of the host.
Oh, okay.
Or the legion, yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, that's right.
He's the monarch. Right. The military monarch. So, yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool.
I told you, these guys are cool. Yeah, okay. So, you're welcome.
Let's call it a game.
We're going to call it a game. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye. Dungeoncast. Harlequin or Harlequin? I think it's Harlequin.
Harlequins.
Hardy Harlequins. Hardy Harlequins.
Hardy.
What was the helpful hermits to Hardy
Harhars.
Hardy Harlequins. No,
that's bold. Hardy Harhars.
No, I'm not doing that. Helpful hermits to hardy harlequins.
You don't want to do hags?
No.
Nope.
Yeah, because I like har and yeah. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Will.
I'm Brian.
This is the podcast where we discuss everything Dungeons and Dragons. I forgot to
we do not discuss things here. We talk about.
Okay, sorry. We talk about everything.
Say it right, Will.
I know. Sorry,
We've done the bit for this long. We have to keep doing it forever.
We can't change words now. Helpful hermits to hardy harlequins. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Will.
I'm Brian.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons and Dragons, from helpful hermits to hardy
Damn, I'm gonna still do my smooth lookup thing.
Okay. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Will.
And I'm Brian.
This is the podcast where I almost said discuss again. I don't know why I want to discuss things today. Okay. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Will.
And I'm Brian.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons and Dragons, from helpful hermits to hardy harlequins. And I
keep thinking you're going to say helpful Honda dealers.
Helpful Honda dealers. I'm gonna change it to hardy hermits to help for. Oh no, that's just
say
as
hags. Just say
bad. Helpful hags. Okay, sure.